It was late March, 2025, just before 5 p.m. in a quiet neighborhood of Indian River County, Florida. The kind of afternoon where the air hangs heavy and the sounds of cicadas mix with distant cars on empty streets. A delivery driver, finishing his day, pulled up to a modest home. His job was simple: drop the package, knock, and move on. But when he knocked on this door, the answer was not what he expected. A whisper. "Help me." So soft it could have been missed entirely. A fragile sound wrapped in fear. No alarms, no shouts, just those two words. In that brief moment, a routine stop shifted into something more. Something that would change everything. He didn't know what he was stepping into. None of us could have guessed. But he heard her. And sometimes, that is all it takes. March 28, 2025. Just before 5 p.m., the sun casting long shadows over a quiet Indian River County street. The delivery driver, a man in his early 30s, carries his usual calm but alert presence. He's someone who notices the small details, a trembling hand, a flicker of fear in a stranger's eyes, without looking for trouble. As the door opens, he sees her, a woman barely holding herself together. Her body shakes, and her neck bears red marks, clear signs of a struggle. Her gaze avoids his, filled instead with exhaustion and fear that runs deeper than words. Behind her, standing silently, is Frank Mandolini, 43 years old, her ex-husband. His calm demeanor contrasts sharply with the tension that fills the porch. The driver senses the unspoken conflict between them, a history thick with pain and fear. In that brief moment, the driver understands this is no ordinary delivery. The quiet desperation in her eyes speaks volumes, and the man beside her only adds to the weight of what's unfolding. He doesn't yet know the full story, but the signs are unmistakable. Something urgent is happening behind that door. The delivery driver's eyes flick between the woman and the man behind her, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Every instinct tells him something is wrong, but doubt creeps in. Was he reading it correctly? Was this a private matter he shouldn't interfere with? His fingers tighten around the phone in his pocket, hesitating as the seconds stretch painfully long. The woman's trembling grows more visible, her eyes dart, searching for an escape she can't voice. The red marks on her neck burn in his mind, a stark signal he can't ignore. Still, he wonders, what if this is more complicated than it seems? What if calling for help could make things worse? The line between right and wrong feels razor thin. Then, the whisper echoes again in his memory, soft but urgent, "Help me." That fragile plea breaks his hesitation. His voice lowers, careful not to draw attention, as he speaks into his phone. "I think someone needs help inside this house." His heart races, pounding loud in his chest, each beat a reminder of the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. He keeps his eyes on the porch, watching the woman's hands shake slightly as she clutches the doorframe, while the man remains still, watching with unreadable expression. The driver knows this is no longer about a package or a job, it's about doing what's right when it matters most. Waiting for the dispatcher's voice on the other end, every moment stretches, filled with tension and hope, as he braces for what's to come. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the fading daylight as deputies arrive on the quiet suburban street. Their footsteps approach the porch with purpose, but the scene remains still, tense. The woman sits quietly on the steps, her hands trembling in her lap, eyes cast downward. Frank Mandolini stands beside her, calm but watchful, the weight of what just happened hanging heavily between them. The deputies listen closely as she begins to speak, her voice breaking the silence. She describes how, after accusing him of inappropriate behavior with electronics, talking to other women, he had grabbed her, his hands around her neck, choking her until she nearly lost consciousness. She recalls the darkness closing in, the fight to breathe, the moment he finally released her. Mandolini acknowledges the choking but insists he never cut off her air completely. The deputies take note of the red marks on her neck and the trembling in her hands, evidence that supports her words. The truth in her story unfolds slowly, piece by piece, each detail deepening the seriousness of the situation. The porch, once just a simple entryway, now feels like the threshold of a life nearly shattered. The driver watches from a distance, the weight of what he witnessed settling heavily in his chest as the reality of the attack becomes clear. Frank Mandolini was handcuffed on the porch, his expression unreadable as deputies led him to the squad car. He was officially arrested for felony battery by strangulation, a charge that carried serious consequences. The officers set his bond at $30,000, reflecting the gravity of the offense. Meanwhile, social services were alerted immediately. The home wasn't just his and the woman's, a child lived there too. Authorities needed to ensure the child's safety amid the unfolding crisis. The delivery driver stood back, watching the scene with a mix of relief and lingering shock. The package he'd come to deliver sat untouched in the van, now a symbol of everything that almost went unnoticed. As he closed the door behind him, the reality settled in. One moment, one quiet whisper, had changed the course of many lives. It was a heavy reminder that sometimes, the smallest action carries the greatest weight. A whisper, barely heard, became a lifeline, breaking through the routine of a delivery driver's day and pulling him into a moment that mattered beyond words. It's a reminder that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's found in the softest voices, in the subtle signals we might be tempted to overlook. That day, an ordinary man chose to listen, to act with empathy instead of doubt. And because of that choice, a life was changed, maybe even saved. In a world filled with noise, it's the small acts of attention and care that can make the biggest difference. The driver's day didn't end with a simple signature or a dropped package. It ended with the understanding that sometimes, being present for someone's quiet call for help is what truly matters most. If there's one thing this story shows, it's that listening can be a powerful act. That smallest voice, the one easily missed or ignored, might be a cry for help wrapped in quiet words. What happened on that porch wasn't just chance, it was a reminder to stay aware, to trust what we see and hear, and to act when something feels wrong. Sharing this story is more than just telling what happened. It's a call to notice the signs, to believe in the courage behind whispered pleas, and to know that sometimes, the right choice is simply to listen and respond. We all have the power to make a difference. Sometimes it starts with hearing the softest call for help and stepping forward when it matters most.